Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Shakin Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. Today on the podcast, we have Alex Clark, sales professional and master connector here in Charlotte. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Grateful to be here and just having a great day right now.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about what you got going on in Charlotte. I know you got like a couple little ventures that you're working on.
Yeah, so right now, one of the biggest things we're working on is probably by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have launched a new networking group. I don't know if networking group, excuse me, I don't know if networking is the proper term to use, but we're launching, it's called Charlotte Connects. And our goal is to basically be able to connect people in Charlotte to different networking groups, community groups, and organizations. The problem that we're trying to solve here in Charlotte, so Charlotte's a transplant city. Everybody's coming from somewhere else, and they're trying to find somewhere to belong. So by basically organizing this group in a professional manner, there's a lot of social groups you can join, but basically our goal is for it to be the home of, hey, we can connect you to, a run club, or connect you to an entrepreneur group, or connect you to really anything you'd be looking for, even a dog park if that's what you're looking for. And that's on one side. On the other side, our goal is to also work with influencers here in Charlotte, the businesses of Charlotte, and be able to help them and collaborate with them to elevate their businesses and stuff like that. So that's kind of the main idea of what we got going on.
Why is networking so important for entrepreneurs and for...
Dude, it's really what I like to start with is just sharing my story. So I moved to Charlotte 3 years ago, and when I moved here, I didn't know anybody. I was looking for opportunity, so I came down to Charlotte and basically started a brand new life. Now, when you don't know anybody in the city, you got to figure out how to socialize. So the only way I knew how to socialize is I would go to bars, and I was very successful at meeting people. I'd go to bars, I met a ton of people, friend groups. It was great, but really the only thing I had in common with all these people was we like to party. We like to go out, we like to party. And then that was cool. I lived like a rock star for 2 years. It was amazing. I have tons of stories. But I kind of just got to a point where I needed more. I was just I was starting to get upset with myself. I wasn't fulfilling my own potential. I wasn't fulfilled in life at all. I kind of got to a bumpy place. And I was like, all right, I need to challenge myself to redo this. How can I meet people? But rather than the only thing we share in common is we like to go to the bar, what about all the things that I'm passionate about that I love doing? So I started with networking. And I networked, there's some people in Charlotte, there's some movers and shakers out here. There's some absolute dogs and I work with a lot of them now, and we kind of all got together, and that's who I'm creating, Charlotte Connects with. But I hit the scene hard. I was going to an event every single night of the week. My record's 3 events in one day, a morning coffee, a luncheon, and then an evening event. I was every single event in Charlotte, I was hitting them all. And what I was really searching for is like-minded people, and then figuring out which group did I belong to and how does that all work. And I'll never forget this. I call him, he's a mentor to me. But one of my mentors, one day we're hanging out, and so it's a funny story. So he has a boat. He was like, hey, I just got a boat. I got it out on the lake. Aren't you happy you met me? And I just looked him straight in the face. I was like, dude, I honestly don't care about the boat, but I'd love to learn how to be like you. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he goes, listen, a man of value needs 3 things. You need a good mind, body, and spirit. You need a niche set of skills. And then you need a third thing. And that's what I think you're missing. You need a group of friends in which you can do deals with it. So he was like, you have sales, that's your skill set. You got a good mind, you're a good spirit, but you're not surrounded by people you can do deals with it. And that's really the moment my entire life changed. So what happened is all these people that I was networking with, I started building genuine relationships with. Everybody, I think, misunderstands networking. So they go out to network to gain something. They're like, oh, I'm trying to sell something. If you go to a typical networking event, it's salespeople putting business cards in front of you. That's not how you network. The saying that we have, with the group that we're creating here in Charlotte, is it's relationship first, business second. You should just genuinely be focused on getting to know somebody and building a relationship and building trust. So I did that, and my whole life changed almost overnight, and it was absolutely crazy. And the way that it changed was I was surrounded by a bunch of movers and shakers, a bunch of hustlers, a bunch of people that were passionate about what I'm passionate about. And what I also started to realize is everybody I was surrounded by had value. But I'm a type of person, like I'm never home. I'm always outside, and I'm a firm believer too. Like if you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody that's trying to make something, if you're somebody that's trying to build, if you're at home, like it makes sense if you're at home and you're studying and you're creating and you're focused on your craft. But if you're not doing that, go outside. Like just go outside. Like even though I know I started the story with going to the bar, there's been a lot of relationships that have happened from just having a drink at the pool or something like that. So as these relationships all developed, I started to make connections. You start to realize that everybody's kind of looking for something. So as an entrepreneur, your network or your friend group, because it's like the word network, I think is also a misconception because people think it's like, oh, only professional. No, my network is my friend group. Like the people you see me out with, that's my network. But like we all have skill sets, values, businesses, and there's different ways that we can all plug things in. And sure enough, like I'm doing deals within my friend group. Like I'm doing deals with like major sports teams. I'm doing deals with like major companies. I'm getting into companies that you like that my day job, I can't even get into through my day job, but I can get in through a back door doing networking. So my day job, I work as a sales manager. So I've been able to get sales in like some big accounts and get into some pretty big doors through the back door, through relationships, just through networking. So, that's kind of how I got to this point, and I'm living a much more fulfilled life now, and the people I'm surrounded by now, and not to discredit anybody, I still have all the same friends, but it's now if I go to dinner, if I'm at a bar, like the conversation's meaningful, there's something going on, we're challenging each other to be better, everybody's building something, and life's just more fun.
So you're obviously like really extroverted, but there's a lot of people that are like uncomfortable to go out there and like, start talking to people. What's your advice to like those kind of people? Like,
you find me. So one thing I learned is, so when we created this group, what happened was I'm going to all these networking events, and then I started to notice there was people that were all the same stuff I was at. And I was like, wait a minute, you're doing exactly what I'm doing. And that's when we all started to connect. So originally I had joined one of the groups. I went to the guy that was running the networking group. I was like, hey, could I run like a young professionals like chapter for you? He said, absolutely. And that's kind of where my start went and shift went from going to networking events to running them. And then some of those people that I had met, they wanted to join a team. So what I learned is like, play your strengths. Like if you're an extroverted person, play your strengths, but extroverted people have weaknesses too. So like if you're extroverted, find somebody that's introverted. If you're introverted, find somebody that's extroverted. So like, my girlfriend, me and her ended up meeting through like networking, but like one of the things we noticed really early, even before we started dating, is we're opposites in the workloads that we like to do. Like she makes things look really pretty, really nice. She's a planner. Like I'm not like that at all, but I'm an executor. So like she can imagine what an event looks like and she can put together a list of those items, but then she has me because I can't imagine all that. But if you give me a list of things that even might seem impossible, I'll go bang on doors and go get it done. So, and I think the biggest thing with entrepreneurs, I think a big mistake that a lot of them make is they work in silos. Like I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. So I find people that are good at what I'm bad at and enjoy it. And I bring them in and we basically work as a unit, balancing each other out to be successful. And that's how we've really built this entire networking group here in Charlotte, is everybody brings something different to the table. But you're supported by somebody else that likes to do the things you don't like to do, essentially.
How do you influence people to like get on board with your vision?
I mean, that's a great question. So like the thing is like, I never tried to do it. That's the weird part. So I'd ask this guy, I was like, hey, can I run like a young professionals group, in your networking group? He was like, absolutely. So I just start producing. Like I start throwing events. I got no clue what I'm doing. But it's working. But then people start asking if they can help. And I think where people want to see proof. And like, I'm a big action and evidence guy. Like you can talk about a great idea all day, but if people can see you're taking action, I think that's going to influence them as well. I've never, that's the hard part, is like everything I've done, I've attracted people. So like, I'm never out there pursuing anybody. The other thing too, is like, sometimes too, people might want to go a different way. Like it's not about that for me, but if you want to help and you want to join, you're more than welcome. So it's a hard question to answer because I don't think I necessarily did anything to get these people to kind of hop on board other than just being very open to it.
And I think that like, I think nobody really knows what they're doing, right?
100%.
And I think that like when you just by having confidence, it's like influential and it like attracts people because they're like, oh, it seems like this guy knows what he's doing. And like no one knows what they're doing, but like just having that confidence like is pretty influential.
Yeah. And I will say that's like one of the most like terrifying things about it all is like, you know, so during the day I work as a sales manager, so it's a leadership role there. And then kind of in this networking scene, I've built a team and I've kind of assumed a leadership position there. And, you know, that's the biggest thing for me is, you know, I take leadership extremely serious. If you got people following you like the number one thing is you got to take care of them. And like, that's, so like, it's funny the way I work with this networking group is I almost take a back seat. And like, the way I do it is I'm like, all right, how can I support everybody? Like, you know, we had a women's event like last week. Now, one of the women on our team, she wanted to do the event. She imagined it. Cool. Like, so I support her. I find, you know, space for her to be able to do it, kind of help her with, you know, we set up some, you know, event ticketing software and stuff like that for her. But that's the way I found it is if you just support people and take care of them, they're going to thrive and go do what they naturally want to do. But I think giving them that support and also supporting them with that confidence helps them out a lot too.
Why is leadership so important?
Dude, leadership is something that's very sacred to me because what leadership really is people put trust into you. So it terrifies me. Like it keeps me up at night as a sales manager or, you know, stresses me out when I'm running this group because I know that people are looking up to me and depending on me and they trust me. And what's important about that is I think a lot of people want leadership roles for ego more than anything, and then they misuse it. But if you use leadership right, you have a team and you're capable of doing so much more. So, you know, I think leadership's important because if you have a village of people, like I said earlier, the things I'm not good at, I can be great at in a group if I have the right people with me. But it's understanding the fact that what leadership really is about, one of my favorite sayings is the leader eats last. It's about supporting and taking care of everybody, making sure that they feel that they're taken care of, that they're supportive. Like people will ride with you to the end if you're taking care of them. People will jump ship immediately if they don't feel like you're looking out for their best interest. But if you're an entrepreneur, like your goal, in my opinion, like to scale, you're going to need to build a team. And in order to build a team, you're going to need to build trust. And if you're building trust, you're taking over a leadership role, which is basically these people are saying, hey, I'm going to work on this task. I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. And I'm going to trust you that you're going to take care of the bigger picture for all of us and look out for us. So yeah, leadership's just extremely important role.
Yeah. One of my early coaches gave me like, before, you get all these like lessons on leadership, like whether you're working for a company or you're on a sports team, like you keep hearing this word leadership and it's like almost like a fugazi.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't really realize the importance of it within a business. Like the coach told me a saying, he said, leadership is not a difference maker. It is the difference maker. And leadership, all it is influence. Nothing more, nothing less was the next saying he said. It's, if you're a good leader, you're good at influencing people. Yeah. And influence is just made up of trust and credibility. Absolutely. It's having the credibility through that evidence and action and having the trust because, you have performed, you've on expectations.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes on leadership is the team does as the leader does. So like during the day I work as a sales manager, and like that's one of my biggest things is I have to be the example. So if I expect these guys to show up early, I got to show up earlier than them. If I expect them to dress nice, I got to dress better than them. Like, and I'm very hands-on. Like that's the thing is I think as a leader, it's very important to do the things that nobody wants to do and do it with them. Like do the gritty jobs, do the hard stuff, and show people that you're not afraid to sweat with them or do the work with them. Because, I think a boss is saying, hey, you got to do that. A leader's like, hey, like this job sucks, but I'm going to do it with you. We're going to get it done. And then we'll go on to our next task.
And it's a big responsibility as a leader. And I realized like, again, why that influence was so impactful. I was working a door knocking job, like doing solar, and I had 10 guys underneath me. Mm-hmm. And I realized the impact of it. Like if I had a day where I got 3 leads, like the rest of the team behind me would also produce 100%. In comparison. But when I was slacking off, like instantly reflected because they're all looking at you. And unfortunately, it's like you should, as an individual, be your own motivator, but that's not how it works. Like,
100%, yeah. Yeah. Like, for my sales team, like We meet Monday mornings, 8 a.m. Like my Monday mornings are rigorous because I want to plan for the week. I hate Mondays. Every single Monday I want to call out. Like I hate it. But like, that's the thing is like, it's not about me. It's about what's best for like this whole team. So I don't think I've ever called out on a Monday since I've been a sales manager, but that's because we go that Monday sets up our entire week. And I know if I miss that Monday, yeah, those guys would be there, but like that entire week's about to be deterred day one.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard, but I mean, that's the reward of leadership, in my opinion, is seeing people bloom. Like it is seeing, on my sales team, guys develop into great salespeople. People get promoted outside of work in the networking group. Like I've watched, people who have never thrown an event start throwing events. Like they start producing content. You watch these people grow. And a lot of it stems from leadership. Like if you're a great leader, like obviously I'm from New England Patriots fan, but like they got the Bill Belichick coaching tree. Those are all coaches that have been successful in the NFL that stem from one guy's leadership. And I think if you're a great leader, that's what it's about. It's about elevating other people and supporting them so they can be able to do so. And then the reward as a leader is to be able to watch that and be able to see that and celebrate that. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I learned like you, as a leader, you try to build leaders instead of building followers, because if you build leaders, you grow exponentially. If you build followers, you grow linearly. How do you like build leaders?
So it's funny you say that. So that's my goal. So my goal as a leader is to get everybody to a point where they don't need me. So like, in my opinion, like if you're a successful leader, the roles are going to change at one point. And it goes from me telling you what to do to you telling me what to do, because you're telling me how to support you. So a lot of what it is one is you have to set the example. So you have to show people how everything's done. You have to do it kind of with them. But then two is you have to challenge them to kind of do it themselves, but then give them the space to be able to do that. I think the other thing too is holding them accountable, and holding them accountable to the standards that you're holding yourself accountable to as a leader. So your expectations that you have for yourself, you want to gradually start moving people to the point where they have those expectations for themselves. Once they have the same expectations you have for yourself as a leader, they're self-operating.
How do you do that though? That's easier like said than done.
100%.
Is there a methodology to it?
You're basically it's accountability. It's like the thing about leadership is difficult conversations. So like, and I think the other thing too is selling it to them as a value to them. So,
because they've got to realize it themselves.
100%. So there was a guy on my team, like one of the big things, I'm a big believer. And so I worked in corporate America. Now I work on like a location level sales team. And what I realized is the way you dress will impact if you get a promotion or not. Like I've been behind closed doors and I've seen people not get promotions because of how they dress. Like that was a topic of conversation. So for my team, I'm like, listen, you guys need to if you guys want to move up within this company and stuff like that, like here's the things that nobody's going to tell you that you need to know, but that you're being judged by these things and they can also impact you in a positive way. And like, I was kind of going back and forth with one of my reps about it, and not like in a bad way, but it was like, he kind of wasn't bought in. And so I sat him down one day and I was like, listen, man, like, I'm not telling you this for me. Like, if you want to come in and look however you want, I really don't care. As long as you produce sales, I'm happy. But if you want to be promoted and you want to stand out and you want to be respected, this is why you do this. Like, I'm telling you this for the benefit of yourself. That dude shows up we show up to the office 2 times a week. He shows up in a suit every single week. Like ever since then. And we were in a meeting, with like one of our leaders, and he had pointed it out. Like we had never even noticed it, but he was like, look at this guy. He shows up every week in a suit. He's ready to go. Like he's whatever. And like, we had a sidebar after that. He was like, oh, like that guy noticed. I was like, dude, that's what I'm trying to tell you to do. Like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. But I think like a big thing about leadership is if somebody thinks that you're trying to tell them to do something, they're simply just not going to do it. But if I'm like, hey, listen, this is the benefit in it for you. Like, I'm trying to guide you here. So if you don't want to do it, cool, but this is why you should do it. People are going to be more bought in to that. I think one of the biggest things I've learned about people in the past 2 years is people are selfish.
100%.
So my saying that I came up with about a year ago is I'm selfishly selfless. All I have to do is take care of everybody. If I can take care of everybody else in a selfish way, I'm going to be taken care of. And like that's how I became a connector, is like through that mentality of, all right, I meet you, I talk to you, I learn about your business, but I learn about what you want and what you need. And I just got to figure out how to give that to you. And then I have somebody over here that has what you want, what you need, and what they like. The connection is you and your business and them and their business. And I'm just being selfishly connecting you, connecting this, connecting that. And like the cool thing is so this is like one of the biggest things I've learned in about the past year is you can pay people one of two ways. You can pay people with money, which in my opinion is cheap, or you can pay people with value. If you can pay people with value, you can do just the same amount of stuff you can do with money without ever actually having to trade, like give somebody $1. People will take value over money. Like, and so if I'm building a business, like obviously like I want to collect money, but then if I find somebody that could provide me value where I can make more money or grow my business, that's somebody I want to work with. So by being selfishly selfless, my goal is to find a way to add value to everybody that I'm meeting and talking to. And like, that's the thing is like, I'll ask people like, hey, like, what is it that you're looking for? What's a win for you? Like, I have in our networking group, we have this guy, he's an amazing guy. He just moved to Charlotte. You know, he just took a risk. He was like, you know what? I want to be a photographer. Like, this is my craft. He came to Charlotte. And so we started doing photography for like our networking group. And like, I felt bad because I was like, dude, I can't pay you. But like, what I will do is like, I will get you referrals. I will find you business and all kinds of stuff. Now I've been able to find him plenty of clients through my network just by, you know, knowing what he's looking for and knowing what these businesses are looking for and connecting those. But right then and there, like I'm able to find a way to be able to add value to him, basically have him on my team. And the way that I'm paying him is in referrals and in business. So like when I learned that, I was like, all right, like I just got to add value to people. And if I can do that, like I can do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And I think the point that you just made is one of the single most important pieces of advice I can give to people to like skyrocket their professional development is realizing, having the consciousness that, like you said, people are selfish. And if you can be conscious of that and you can suppress that ego, like I talk to my salespeople and I'm like, get the words I and me out of your fucking vocabulary. 100%. If you can get those two words out of your vocabulary and focus your 100% attention on the person on the other side of the table, it's like a drug for them because you're just feeding their ego with interest. And they will continue coming back to you because, and number two, like information is power. So how are you getting information that's going to be the basis of the deal? By talking about yourself. And like when we go to a sale, I show the guys, like when I'm closing a deal, I do not talk about product. Yeah. If you ask me about the product, I have the knowledge to give you, like to communicate to you, like why there's an advantage to this product. But what I am trying to accomplish at that sales meeting is asking as many questions as I can to paint the picture and understand what your needs are so that I can bring value,
100%.
You know, to those needs. If I sit there talking about myself, I can talk about 100 different ways I can bring value. And that may not be the black swan or the like one thing that is the difference maker that is going to make you change. And I mean, that is what a sale is
100%.
Is getting someone to change from what they're doing to something else. It's influencing them to do that. And you can't do that talking about yourself. It's like doing a needs assessment, figuring out that need.
I sell like, so company I work for, we sell like floor mats, like toilet paper, paper towels, like some of the most like things you would think are irrelevant. So floor mat, for example, like how would you sell a floor mat? Like, you know what I mean? Like almost like taking it to like, how would you sell this pen? And most people will be like, oh, it's a floor mat, keeps your floors clean, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I've sold floor mats off of worker shortages and how that can, and how our service and everything can solve that. I've sold floor mats as part of a marketing campaign. I've sold floor mats based off of safety. Like it's about finding the value points and then aligning. So it's, I need to listen to you, figure out what it is that you're looking for and what you're telling me. Then, all right, what's in my arsenal and how can I align something with that? Now, so what happened is when I started networking, at first I was like very one-dimensional. I was working in sales for like this company. And I was like, all right, the only thing I have to offer is like, nah, it's toilet paper, paper towels, yada, yada. But then I started building this large network. So now I listen to you and now it's like, all right, let me go into my arsenal. And I guess you could say it's like products in a sense, but it's not products. Let me go into my arsenal, my network and find people that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for marketing, I just told you about a camera guy. Like he could do marketing for you. I got social media guys. Like I got people that work with like loans, private equity, like stuff like that. I have all the solutions based off of that. So a lot of what like sales is like, a lot of people misunderstand sales and they try to be a salesperson. And that's why everybody hates salespeople, is from like those types of people. If you're the best salespeople, don't talk, they listen. Like that's the best salesperson, is you listen to what everybody's saying. You listen to your customers, you listen to what people need, and then you provide solutions that are aligned with that. And if it doesn't make sense, there's no sale. But the thing is, this is why I tell my salespeople all the time, it's funny, especially like on day one, your job is not to sell. Like I tell everybody that, like, get it out of your mind right now. Like you're not here to sell. You're here to help people. If you're successful at helping somebody, the byproduct's a sale. That's all you got to focus on. So what do you need help with? What is your struggles? What are your pains? Where are you being challenged right now? And how can I help you there? And if I help you, I get a sale. So the cool thing, what got really crazy too, is as a connector, you start making deals through connecting. So like one of the things is like a lot of people want money. One of the things I like is access. So like I got some access, some pretty cool stuff here in Charlotte. But the access is through all these connections. Like I was like, hey, listen, like I'll set you up with this guy, I'll hook you up with this deal, or I'll do this for you, all based off of this network. But in return, like if I come to this stadium, like if I got a client with me, I need you to get me down on the field. I need you to be able to do this for me, do that for me. And everybody's more than willing to help because I've helped them. So like I'm going through this whole period where I'm not even focused on money, I'm focused on access. How can I access all this different stuff and then be able to connect it to other things? Like with my networking group, I'm getting event spaces. I've never paid $1 for an event space. I've gotten event spaces based off of how I can bring value to people, and then they let me utilize their space. And then guess what? I make them money by bringing a bunch of people in. Typically there's like alcohol or some food being sold. I bring them money. We do sales that night. And then they're just like, hey man, whenever you want to utilize my space, let me know. So around Charlotte, there's a ton of spaces where if I want to do an event next Tuesday, there's about 5 spaces. As long as there's nothing going on next week, I could set it up and be able to do an event there next week. But I'm not even utilizing money anymore. Like I'm utilizing value. And then I'm not looking for money right now at this period and everything that's going on. I'm looking for access to everything. I'm looking for access to people. I'm looking for access to spaces. I'm looking to access for events, like getting really cool, like VIP tickets and stuff like that. Like the crazy thing is I get access to some really cool spaces at events. And a lot of times, like if you look at like my life, like it might look like, oh, I'm just out here like partying, or I'm in this suite, or I'm doing this, I'm working. Like everywhere I am, I'm working.
People don't realize.
Oh, it's crazy. Like that's the whole thing is like.
But that's an art, is like not seeming like you're working.
100%. Like yeah, like that's like the cool thing is like when there's sporting events here in Charlotte, like I get invited to a lot of like suites. I get invited to like a lot of different areas, and at first I couldn't figure it out. I was like, why is everybody inviting me to all of this? And then I figured out why people were inviting me to stuff. Is if you bring me around the right people, I'm going to work a room. I'm going to meet everybody. I'm going to shake hands. I'm going to walk out there with phone numbers. I'm going to walk out there with a follow-up. So like for people, they could see that I can bring that value. So they invite me to this stuff because I'm just out there networking, socializing, and doing all that, and then gaining access like after that. So, and again, like that's the thing. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build, a business or something like that, like it's a lot easier if you're out there networking in that sense. And I like the word networking makes it seem like you're socializing with intention. Yeah. That's all it is.
It's not transactional.
It's not transactional. You're socializing with intention.
Yeah.
So like I'm looking to put myself around the right people. I'm looking to put myself around like-minded people. Simple socializing is being out and about talking to people without intention. And the intention isn't necessarily malicious. Like my intention is to be around like people that are similar to me, have conversations like how me and you are having right now, opposed to just going out and just drinking at a bar,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to backpedal a little bit to like what you were saying about like identifying those needs with salespeople, and just make like a comment to the audience. Yeah. Like I think the salespeople that work for me ask, what skill do I need to learn to be a good salesman? I think the single most important skill to be a good salesman is get good at asking questions.
I mean, yeah, 100%, 100%. Like asking questions, like it's probing. So basically, like it's crazy because I've had a ton of deals where it's like there's this one account I'm at. It's a school, and we're trying to sell like toilet paper towels, floor mats, like stuff like that. And we're going around this entire campus, and I'm hammering this guy with questions, and he's just uninterested. We go into and I've been asking questions for about an hour at this point. We go into the storage closet, and there's this wall of a ton of dispensers. I was like, hey, I was like, what's going on with like these dispensers over here? He was like, dude, kids knock these things off the wall all the time. I was like, let me ask you, like, you pay for those dispensers? He was like, yeah, that's why we have a stockpile here. Like, we buy them. Like, I was like, how much you guys paying per dispenser? Like, it's like $65 per dispenser. And so, like, with my company, we provide dispensers for free. So I'm like, you're paying for all these dispensers, like right here. So I count them all out. Like, there's probably like $2,000 worth of dispensers on the wall that he's had to purchase, and he's gonna have to purchase more. And I was like, how does this feel? Like, how do you feel about this? And he was like, oh, this is the most frustrating part. I was like, listen, man, I know we've talked about a lot of stuff here that I can do, but I think the thing that makes the most sense is I can give you those dispensers for free. And we went from an hour of like, everybody felt like they were wasting our time to just the one question flipped everything around. And we were able to get this deal done. We were able to get all this business because of this one little aspect. But that's the thing is I don't go into that dusty closet. I don't see those dispensers. I don't ask that one question. I lose that deal. There was another one, and this one's even funnier. So same thing. So we're meeting with this account. They've already signed with my competitor, but they haven't started business yet. So like we're at the like last wire here. And there's things that my competitor can do that I can't. And like, they're like, well, like we really like this. We really like that. You guys can't do this. You guys can't do that. And it's looking like we're about to, like, there's nothing we can do for these guys. And I get up and I need like a time. So I get up, I go to the bathroom, and in my industry, we do contracts. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what, let me ask this. So I go back, I sit down, I go, hey, what contract length did you guys sign up for? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, what you signed with those guys? Like, what's the contract length? They're like, there is no contract length. And I'm like, no, there is. Every business in my industry does a contract. I was like, no, there is. And I was like, let me ask you another question. What's your price increase? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, what's the price increase you signed to with those guys? They're like, we didn't sign a price increase. I was like, yes, you did. I was like, did you ever at any point go over like any terms of the agreement, like the small words? Like, no, like they told us that like everything be fine, like there's no contract. Well, I was like, no, you absolutely did. Change that entire deal. So then they end up kicking out that provider because they were like, you guys basically didn't tell us what you were doing. They were able to accept the fact that there was a few things we couldn't do that my competitor could do, and we won the deal. But again, like I just get up, I go to the bathroom to basically just take a time out. I come back, I ask one question, we get the deal immediately. But that's the thing is, I sit down, I have a quick conversation. I don't ask these questions. We don't get those deals.
And we call that a black swan. Like it's like that one piece of information that moves the deal forward. And you can't find out that black swan without asking those questions. Like my mentor, I was asking him for books on like sales and like what are, keys to being successful. Mm-hmm. And he handed me a CIA college interrogation textbook on how like law enforcement interrogates criminals. Yeah. Because it's the exact same thing. You're trying to get to the bottom of the information. Like, what is that black swan?
Yeah. And the thing, though, that's crazy is let's say that there's 1,000 questions you can ask. The black swan can be any of those 1,000 every single situation. Yeah. So, I just told you how one situation, it's asking about the contract. One situation is asking about the dispenser. It changes every deal. Yeah. So you have to ask all 1,000 because you don't know which one it's going to be. And, that's the whole thing is every situation is different. But when you find it, boom, the whole thing changes right then and there.
And I think you start with those broad questions that direct you okay, I have these 3 broad questions and they didn't bite on these 3. So I don't have to go through 750 questions. I can just go down this lane and it curtails your question to get detailed. And that's the interrogation.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it's depth. That's the biggest thing is I'm going to tell you right now, everybody's fine. Everybody's got some sort of problem. Everybody's like, yeah, it's all right. It's this and that. So if you're very shallow with your questioning, you're not going to get far. Yeah. But it's like 7 layers until you get down to that real problem. But you can tell by you can tell by reading body reactions. People
that's so important.
Yeah. So you're like, well, what do you mean? Let me go there. You're basically just reading this person the entire time. And it's funny because you have to go. A lot of it comes from trust and people making people feel comfortable. But that's my whole thing is I ask questions, I make people feel comfortable, and I get to a point where I'm just tell me what you want. Tell me what you're looking for. The other thing too is if somebody's not doing a deal with you, there's a reason for that. And I need you to communicate that with me.
And you can ask
100%.
You can literally ask that question. What is keeping you from moving forward?
100%. And that's the thing about being a salesperson. You gotta be bold. Yeah. That's why a lot of people in life, you're taught to be very polite, you're taught to be very nice, very kind. Sales is the complete opposite. We break down doors. We ask the hard questions. We might come off as rude, but that's how you be successful at sales. And that's what makes some people very uncomfortable about sales is you're being very aggressive. Like somebody's got to ask a question. Like the crazy thing is like, that's one of the things I learned in training like years ago is like, you got to ask for the business. You can do everything in the entire sales process, but if you don't ask for the business, like you don't get the deal. If you don't ask the girl on a date, you don't have a girlfriend. Like, you know what I mean? Everything can be great, but it gets to that point where you got to ask the hard question and just be bold.
Yeah. And that's closing.
That's closing, man. That's it.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned like reading body language, because that's super high level in my opinion. Like if you can learn body language, it gives away so much more. People aren't going to tell you always what they think, but they can't hide their body language.
100%.
So you can read a lot, like real time when you're saying something to someone. They may not be rude, but you can see their eyes scrunching up, and like they feel what you're saying is abrasive. And if you're paying attention, and again, it's not focusing on yourself, it's focusing on the other person. If you're really conscious and paying attention to that person, they're going to give you all the information that you need to influence them.
Absolutely. So like somebody told me years ago, like it was a friend of mine, he had told me that there's like, I think it's like 7 different types of intelligence. And he was like, your type of intelligence is people. Like that's your level of intelligence. And 100% is. Like I can read if somebody's uncomfortable or comfortable or not. And I don't know if everybody can or what the deal is, because obviously like, I'm wired a certain way. But this goes all the way back to the beginning. That's like my main skill. I can't make things look pretty. Like I'm not the most artistic person. I'm not a very technical person. But like, that's the thing is like with sales, you're just dealing with people. Same thing with like leadership as well, as dealing with people. So like, those skills kind of go hand in hand. So going back to what I said earlier is like, for somebody that's an entrepreneur, like you could be making a really great product. You could have an amazing idea, but you could lack the intelligence that I have, but I lack the intelligence that you have. And that's why that networking part makes so much sense, because networking allows you to be in an environment where me and you can meet. We can be like, whoa, well, this is my area of intelligence. That's your area of intelligence. I can help you here and you can help me there. Like salespeople don't create products. They sell them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, a lot of like technical people create products. Like they create software, but they lack the skills to be able to sell those products. So it's about building a team and organizing people in an organization to be able to execute something larger like that. Like, and what I see is people that are siloed and they're not building those teams and working with other people. You don't stand a chance against a 15-man team. Like if it's just you and your business, like that's great. You have the best idea in the world. But if I got 15 people that are experts in their different fields that have, if I have the diversity of the 7 intelligences, you can't outwork us.
And they're all aligned on the same vision. All aligned. So powerful.
Like, and that's like the other thing too. I think about being a leader is I'm very passionate about the things I do. And like, even like these networking groups that I'm involved in, like, I'm like, all right, this is how this whole thing works. And it was funny. So the first meeting I ever had, there's like these 2 guys, it's the 3 of us. And I was like, listen, like, here's the goal. Like, here's the vision, man. Like, this is how big this thing can be. This is all the cool stuff. And they got fired up. But the thing is why we work as a great team. Like, this is why the 3 of us would work so well. Is they're like, listen, you got to come back down to here. What's the steps that we need to do one by one to be able to get up to there? So they were like, they brought me back. They believed in the vision, but they're more like
granular.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just not like that. So then we were able to break it down. We said, all right, what are the simple goals that we can focus on quarter by quarter? And then we started growing this group. Like this thing, it was crazy. It went from, let's just throw an event. Let's see if people show up. Let's see if we can, build like a database, to like, all right, how do we create a revenue model? All right, we need an LLC now, or a nonprofit. And it was just really cool because I can see the big part, but I have to work with people that can see the little parts as well. So again, going back to it, it's about building a team to balance everything out.
And I think understanding that about yourself, like I use the Myers-Briggs test to get an understanding of people. I think understanding like, some people don't even understand what their skill sets are or what 100%. Their personality is. But once you have an understanding of that, you can see what your, faults are. And
100%. And like, that's the thing is like, just play your strengths. And like, I'm 29 right now. I'll turn 30 in October. And I'd say through my 20s, like I've done it all. Like I've been boom, 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 tried this, tried that. And now that I'm about to turn 30, but now the way I'm looking at life is I'm like, all right, through trial and error, this is my lane. Okay, cool. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm good at. And this is what I enjoy. Now, these are the things that I lack. Now, with that, that's what I need support from in a team. So with understanding myself, and like, that's pretty much what I've done through my 20s is learned who I am, built self-awareness. Again, If you're not inside reading, growing your craft or working on something, get outside, go have fun, go try new things, challenge yourself. Because now I'm at this point where I'm like, all right, here's everything. Here's my skill sets. Here's what I'm good at. Here's how this stuff works. Here's how I can utilize stuff. How can I narrow this all now to push forward and go kind of accomplish the things that I really want to do with my life? And now, like I said, like I'm living a much more fulfilled life now than I was when I was just kind of living like a rock star.
And you said before, like one of your mentors said to you, like one of the keys, 3 keys is having good mind, body, and spirit. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
So good mind, body, and spirit, in my opinion, is so like all this stuff, it starts with this guy right here. You know what I mean? So in order for me to go out into the world and be able to provide value, that's what any business is. Any entrepreneur out there, you're providing value. In order for me to be able to do that, I got to be okay with this thing. So like, I got to be good up here in my mental space. And don't get me wrong, there's times where, you know, I'm not having a great week or something like that. I'm going through a period of trial and error, and I got to kind of reverse back and kind of focus on myself. But good body, mind, and spirit is one is attitude. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you got to have a good attitude, outlook on life. And you got to just take care of yourself. You got to be in a good headspace. And, when it comes to like body, like, I think when it comes to body, like you gotta, like, dude, I'm working like, so back when I really started diving into this, like I stopped like drinking, stopped going out, like really started focusing on sleep, because like you can't manage a day job, a side project, and then like all these like little connections and everything if this thing isn't taken care of. Like if I'm hungover, if I'm tired, if I'm sleepy, like I can't do it all. So like in order to start all of this, I took a time out. The first thing I started with is I was like, all right, get me into a good rhythm. So get me into a good headspace, take care of my body, get my energy, get fit, because the amount of time I have left in the day at these points is so minuscule. But you can't do all this and put all this on yourself if you're not taking care of yourself first. If any of that makes any sense.
And I think you're the 4th episode in the road to talk about why drinking is detriment to business.
So all right, so funny. So it's funny. So when I started networking, like, so the crazy thing is alcohol's always there. So I started like so basically what happened was I was like networking for first 4 months, and like I said, I was going to event like every single night of the week. There's drinks at every single one of us. I was drinking all the time. Like I'm because it's around me. Like, and you don't have to pay for it. Like that was what like one of the crazy things is like I gained access to a lot of stuff for free, which was cool. And like the way I came from like a minimal mindset, whatever the correct term is. But I was like, oh, I'm drinking because it's free. And so I networked for like 4 months drunk. And like, yeah, it was crazy, but like cool things were happening and everything. And that's why I sat down with myself and I was like, all right, whoa. What if you did this, but you were the best possible version of yourself? Because like, I know what that guy's capable of. And you're seeing what you're doing right now drunk. Like I'm networking, making these connections, cool things are happening, and I'm throwing events, like this stuff's all going great. And I was like, and you're doing it drunk. So 1, like, what if you did it sober? 2, I became a leader. And like, that's the other thing too, is like, you can't be a drunk asshole if you're a leader or a frat boy or a party boy. If people are looking up to you, you know what I mean? You owe them some sort of dignity. Like if people are going to follow me, like I have to be as righteous as I possibly can. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to still like have a good time here or there, whatever. But like, I can't be at all these events drunk because they believe in me. And for like, it's basically like if a kid had an idol and it's like, yeah, like that's your idol. Well, he's drunk driving all the time. He's womanizing women. Like that's your idol. Like
you're setting the standard.
You're setting a standard, but you're letting people down. So like, those are the 2 things that changed. Is I was like, all right, like I got to change how I am. And I also like, I have to stop drinking because I'm much more better without it. And it was crazy. And the other thing too is like being hungover. Like now, like there's been a couple times like since all that, like I've gone out with the boys, had a night, woke up the next morning, and I'm just like at 18 million tasks between all these different products I've signed up for, and all I want to do is stay in bed and drink like Gatorade. And I'm like, it's not worth it. It doesn't provide any value to me, and you can socialize without it.
And I think most people logically understand that, but there's for some reason I try to figure it out. Like they won't make, like I talk to my buddies and they're like, dude, I got to stop drinking. Like today I'm going to take it easy. And not even 15 minutes later, they start drinking. And once that first one's in them, like, there's no stopping it.
That's the way I am. Like, I'll be completely honest. Like, I just got to taste the blood. I take one, like, and I would be like, I tried this rule where I was like, all right, I'll only have 3 drinks and then I'm out all night, whatever. So I just cut it off completely. And I still go out and I'd still socialize. I'd still go to the bar. And what I just realized was I was much more effective. I was able to listen better. Like I was able to like really understand people, like hear people out. And I was able to be way more effective. I still did all the same stuff that I did. Like at the time too, like I was single, so I would still go out and like talk to a girl at the bar. But like, that's one of the things I realized is I was like, oh, like you actually have to have the courage to like, I don't know, go talk to a girl, or you actually have the courage to go talk to these different business people that you want to talk to. But you have to go through a period of that because again, like we talked about, closing's asking the hard questions, right? So like you have to build a callus of being brave enough to just be bold enough to ask those questions and do those things. And if you're relying on drinking to socialize, then you're never giving yourself the ability to build that skill set naturally.
And you can like, opportunities present themselves all the time. And I've been in that situation when I was drinking, like that an opportunity would present itself and I'm slurring and falling over myself. 100%. And that person is not going to count on you with their money or their trust if you're like, they think that this is your brand. Like every impression is like your personal branding. Yeah. So are you going to brand yourself as the drunk, or like, are you going to be the guy that's at the party but is completely dialed in, like, you know?
And that's what I realized is I was like, all right, like I'm building a brand. Like even though I'm not trying to, like a brand's being built here. And like, that's the thing is like, so when you're into like networking and, sales and everything, like people are going to bring things to your direction. So like, that was one thing is like, if you want to, there's 2 ways of finding people. You can go out and go search, or you can have them come to you. So when I started throwing events, I was like, oh, everybody's coming. And then they're like, oh, that's a guy, that's a guy, that's a guy, that's a guy. So things started coming to me. But like, that's the whole thing is like, if you're drinking in that sense, like, are people really sending them to you? You know what I mean? So,
and you're not an authority because like, if you're that one person in the party that's not drinking, like you're an authority, you're on a different pedestal. Yeah. But if you're just down on the same level with everyone else, like they associate their vices with you. You're just a common man.
But like, that's the thing is like, so what ended up happening was, and this was very interesting, is people started noticing. And I didn't notice people would notice. Everything about this whole thing was all internal. But people started to notice that I had the discipline to be able to not drink. And like, if you're going to work with somebody professional, you want them to have like discipline. Like, so like, there's a couple of things like drinking is one of them. The other thing too is like, when you're dealing with males, I would say is like the deal with like women. So like, if you got a guy that's out here, like womanizing women, like my question is like, all right, he's womanizing women. What's he going to do to me? You know what I mean? Can I trust him as a business partner? You know what I mean? Or like this guy's out here, he's getting sloppy drunk, he's careless. Is he careless with his business? Now, whether those things are true or not, people are judging you off of that. When I changed, like stopped drinking, really, just started living a healthier life essentially and taking care of myself. And it all comes down to discipline. I attracted a different set of people that were like, all right, this guy can wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. Like he can hold himself accountable to a standard. So I can trust him. And people were more willing to bring me in on deals, their business, different things that were going on, because what I was displaying was restraint, discipline, and control. And that's honestly what I lacked before. And what I realized was the shift that happened in my life is those 2 years in Charlotte when I was living like a rock star, I was pursuing pleasure. And I was unfulfilled. And what switched is I pursued purpose. And that's all I'm pursuing now. Is like people ask me all the time, like, you work all the time, like you're doing all this, like, dude, like I'm up at like 6:30 doing my day job. I get my day job. I'm doing this networking events like 9:30, go home, sleep, wake up, doing it again. I'm like, duh, that's not work. This is what I want to do in my life. Like, this is like people sit at home, play video games. This is my video game. Like, it's my life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and that's the cool part about living in a city like Charlotte is like, there's so much going on. It's so accessible. I'm just having a good time.
And I think one last value prop I'll give for not drinking is like, you are gaining between 2 and 5 days per week on over 99% of the population over 18 by not drinking. Yeah. Because when you're good on Saturday, you can work on Saturday, you can work on Sunday, and then when they're fighting that hangover for the next 2-3 days, you're at peak productivity.
100%.
And that adds up.
100%.
Like over a year, they're missing 3-4 days of productivity, and you're at 100% every single day.
Yeah.
Like very quickly, you're going to get way ahead of your peers. And it's not just like your peers at 26-year-old. Yeah. It is, if you think about it right now, I would say probably 99% of people are at least drinking 1 to 2 days.
100%. And so like the tip I'll give is like the one thing I hate about not drinking, like the thing I hate the most is I hate talking about it.
Me too.
Like I don't like I'm not going to tell you like I'm not drinking or whatever.
Because you seem righteous. Like
no, like people like they take it the wrong way. So like it's not like I'm out there like, oh, I don't drink. No, I just simply just don't drink. Like I just say no. But then people are like, oh, like this or oh that or oh like you think you're better. Like well, I hate it. So what I've done is like I figured out like I disguise it. Like I'll grab like a Coke or something like that. Like I'll have something that looks like a drink. And it looks like I'm drinking and nothing's out of the ordinary. Yeah. So like, and like there's been times where I've been out with friends to like, been out at the bar all night till like 1:30. And I was like, all right, you want me to drive you guys home? And like, whoa, you gonna drive? I'm like, dude, I've been drinking. Like, wish you would drink all night. I was like, dude, that's cold.
And it's funny because I do the same thing. Like people, it's just like you said, like, I don't want to talk about it, first of all.
Yeah.
People always ask about it.
100%.
And then they're like, why don't you drink? And I tell them, and then they get offended. Like, I'm like pushing something on them. I'm like, dude, I didn't want to talk about it in the first place. Second of all, like, like it's just annoying. So I do the same thing. I just hide it. I'll get like a Red Bull or something.
100%.
And you don't have to answer any questions. Kind of like one last question before I wrap it up, and then or 1 or 2 more questions. How do you define success?
Dude, success is, all right, so the thing about success is like, I think success for me, the way I define it, is it's how you live. So like, I don't think that success is a destination. I think it's how you're living. So like, I think for me, success is living the way that you want, doing the things that you want to do, challenging yourself to be better, and just living a life that's fulfilling and that you're in control of. No matter what that looks like. Because like right now, success to me, success looks like this end result. Then it might look like this end result. Then it might look like this end result. But I feel successful when I'm on the tracks of just doing what I want to do. Like, and like, that's really all it is. Like, I think people are like, oh, like this big person is like very successful. Like this really rich, like entrepreneur. Not necessarily. Like if they're not happy with their life and they're miserable and like they're what's considered success is coming from a place of insecurity or ego. Like that's not a life I want to live. Like I want to live the life I want to live, be around the people I want to be around, have the time to do the things that I want to do. And that's how I want to exist. So that's what it is. I think success is how you're existing. And if you're not currently necessarily being successful, it's because you're not living the life that you want to live, essentially. Like, I think you could be somebody that works at a grocery store and like just packing grocery bags. And if you're happy and like you love your life, you're more successful than somebody that's miserable with way more money. So that's how I define it. Like, I just keep living the life I want to live.
And people don't realize that like every single person has the ability to feel exactly how they want right now.
100%.
Like it is a discipline. Like you have full control over your emotions. You can feel that internal happiness right the fuck now.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's standing in your way is you.
Yeah.
Like it is a discipline. And I say to people like, which instant do you want to become your eternity? Like, because all that exists, your entire perception is the present.
Yeah.
So like pick that instant that you want to feel for the rest of your life and live it right now, because it's irrational to live any other way.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. Any last like comments that you would give to entrepreneurs, advice you would give to someone?
Yeah. I mean, I think for entrepreneurs, I think like, let me just think for a second here. I think the biggest message that I have is be social. And what I mean by that is like, you don't have to do it all alone. I think if you're being social, you can find other people to build a team with. And like, that's the really cool thing is the teams that I've like become a part of, like those are the people I hang out with. That's my friend group. Like those are the people whose weddings I'm going to, like that's who I'm in group chats with. So be social, but be intentional by being social. And if you do that, and also are very, and you project who you are and what you do as an entrepreneur, you're going to be able to scale your business off your network. Find a group of friends that you can do deals with.
And then any last thing you want to plug, where can people find you, your new ventures?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm at President Maverick. So that's like my personal Instagram. That's where I post everything. That's my brand essentially. Alexander Clark on like LinkedIn. I have, LinkedIn profile there as well. In Charlotte, the group we're launching is Charlotte Connects. So cltconnects.com. Charlotte Connects, at Charlotte Connects on Instagram, and then developing other aspects there as well. And if you're ever in Charlotte, find a way to hit me up, and I'd love to show you around and take you to a networking event.
Well, thanks, Alex. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Shakin' Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. If you have any suggestions for guests or questions that you want asked, feel free to reach out. But other than that, tune in next time for some more interesting guests and conversations. See you guys.